Virgin Voyages is big, shiny, and red. It's the cruise line for people that don't do cruises. Unique and special and like nothing you've ever seen before. Unless you've already seen an atrium, a theatre, and some red light bulbs. Whatever you think you know about Scarlet Lady, well, if you haven't been on board, then you are wrong. Here, ladies and gentlemen, we go. Oh, there it is. It is usually exciting when you first see the ship that you're heading to. In this case, a bit less so. Whilst I was browsing the Bolsover website, the fear that this ship is not for me crept in. And for the first time in years, I'm not super excited to be joining the ship. Check-in and embarkation was rubbish. My first time boarding in Portsmouth and, God willing, my last. I do have another trip booked from Portsmouth this time next year, but fingers crossed I'll die before that. There's only one terminal. It should be renamed Terminal Illness. I parked with CPS, which was really good. I literally parked outside the door, they took a couple of pics and a porter took my luggage away whilst I strolled into the terminal. I'm a big fan of the way that Virgin stick up signs and bother to check the boarding time you've been given, but this was the slowest embarkation I can remember. It took 85 minutes from joining the queue to jumping on a 30-second bus journey to stepping on board. The shanty tent and canvas gangway did not fill me with confidence. And I wasn't sure if I felt sick or angry when the OTT American-style meet and greeters were too stupid to read the room. Rather than cut the harassment short with guests who aren't up for jumping around and squealing, they just continue bombarding you with fun until you either overcome the British reluctance to appear rude and literally spin 180 degrees and walk away from them, or wrestle them to the ground and beat them to death. I went with turning and walking this time, but I can only resist so much temptation. I boarded into the Atrium. Atrium is one of the many cruise ship related words that Virgin Voyages have decided needs rebranding for no good reason. This is not a roundabout, it is an atrium, and not a very good one. Now, this is not your Cunard-style elegant atrium. It's not pretty like Princess, it's not Cheshire like MSC, it's not even Airport Lounge like Iona. This atrium is small and crowded, with half a dozen venues and a few customer services on Deck 7, and some shops, salons and a bar with nice looking but way uncomfortable seating shoehorned in around Deck 6. It's more or less the Arcadia Atrium, done as a collab between Ryanair and IKEA. From there, I actually felt a little bit of relief. The public areas do look a bit like an IKEA, and the stairs and accommodation areas do look a bit like a Travelodge. But this is undoubtedly recognisable as a cruise ship, and not nearly as far removed from any other as the marketing and vocab changes will have you believe. A weird selling point of the Virgin Voyages brand is that the cabins are ready as soon as you board. Of course, you board way later than any other ship, so in reality it's at best the same time as normal. Whatever, I navigated the Travelodge stairs, found my way along the Travelodge corridors and into my Travelodge cabin. There's no key card waiting in an envelope. At check-in you're given what Virgin Voyages call a wearable. It's a bit of string with a plastic box hanging off it which acts as your card. For anyone that has sailed with NCL in a solo studio, this cabin will be pretty familiar. For anyone else, well, here it is. It's a small room with a very small bathroom, and whilst I can't bring myself to give you a 20-minute tour myself, if you desperately want one, I'm sure a quick search will bring up loads of them. The cabin is fine, but the mattress is like a punch in the face for your back. It's not a proper mattress, it's like one of those things you'd get on a futon in the 1990s. I managed, but that's because I'm full of back surgery and pain and I've slept on a sofa for 4 days a week for years. A normal human person will find it bad. The TV is a decent size, the video on demand selection is really good and includes classics right up to a few current cinema releases, and the tablet controller for the TV, lights and aircon would have been great if mine wasn't on its last legs with the battery only lasting about 10 minutes. It only really mattered once when I wanted to go to sleep and Batman wouldn't shut his trap. I couldn't turn him off until the tablet charged up again. The aircon is 100% on 100% of the time, so I spent 6 nights flip-flopping between far too hot and far too cold. But I didn't die. Cabin, 5 out of 10. I won't deep dive the food here because there really are a lot of dining options, so a full review of them all is on the way. There isn't a main dining room like most other ships have. There's an Italian, a Korean barbecue, a steakhouse, a Chinese, a Mexican, and a place where you can get all the taste of food without the satisfaction of feeling full, or mildly satisfied, or like you've eaten it all. Beyond that, there's the Galley, which is where other ships would put the buffet. There are a handful of places to grab a snack dotted around as well, and a pizza place called The Pizza Place late into the night. There are plenty of dining options, good and not so good. Table mates, well, same. I'll include those in the restaurant review too. My trip on Scarlet Lady was a comedy festival cruise, so that filled the bunk of the entertainment calendar. The headliner was Jack Whitehall, but there were some good comedians on board as well, including Esther Manito, Zoe Lyons, Justin Morehouse and Emmanuel Sanubi. Shows were split between 2 venues. The Red Room, which despite Virgin Voyages' protests is the theatre. Now it's a decent space with a trendy entrance and that's quite impressive. Once inside it's functional more than anything else, but in this case when I say functional, I mean functional. When comedians were performing, it looked like this, like a traditional theatre. But the whole place can be flat packed and rebuilt like an IKEA Transformers hybrid. I saw Dual Reality, a performance of a sort of circus skills / gymnastics / Romeo and Juliet in here, and the place looked like this. With seats where the stage used to be, a performance area in the middle at ground level with some stripper poles and a seesaw. Just for a second you think, has it started? And then it has. For the first 20 minutes or so it was okay, then it dipped a bit for me and it was dragging before it won me back. By the end I was all in and it was great. There's a moment when Romeo was throwing Juliet all around the place and very briefly I wasn't impressed. I thought to myself, well, look at the size of Romeo, look at the size of Juliet. But then I thought, well, I'm the same size as that dude and I could not do any of that. So I went back to being impressed. I had a similar sort of, so what? No, actually, that's amazing moment as I was leaving the venue. As I walked across the performance area, I noticed how spongy and soft the floor was. And just for a second, I rolled my eyes like I'd been conned. Anyone can be launched 20 feet in the air or jump down from the ceiling onto this squishy surface. And then I looked up at the height of the stripper poles, and I changed my mind. I could definitely stand on the stage holding a microphone in the other layout though. You know, if I was funny. Red Room, 9 out of 10. The award for Best Supporting Venue goes to The Manor. This is the dingy little nightclub at the end of the Instagramish corridor that you have no doubt seen a million times. Everyone who walks down it thinks they've discovered it. This is actually a rocking venue for stand-up comedy and the cabaret shows that are usually held here. There's a wee upstairs balcony which works when it's in its nightclub mode, or if you get up there quick and grab a space leaning over the edge. If not, then you're better off on the folding chairs down on the dance floor. It felt like an actual little comedy club, and when John Robertson was doing his show there, it was impossible to tell that you weren't in Edinburgh at the Fringe. Clubbing isn't my thing, but if it is yours, then this is as good as anywhere on any ship. Small enough that it never feels dead, great sound and lighting, and no windows for maximum dinge. The Manor, 9 out of 10. Now, it's possibly unfair to deduct the point that I have from the Red Room and the Manor. As a multi-purpose theatre space, the Red Room is 10 out of 10. And as a dingy nightclub / cabaret venue, so is the Manor. But the experience of either of them is dragged down by actually getting into the fluffing places. I don't know if it's bad ship design or bad management of the operation, but to get into either venue, you have to join an enormous queue through the casino, whilst crew, staff and guests constantly have to squeeze past. And if you aren't in the queue being squeezed, for at least half an hour before the show, then you're probably not getting in. On the bright side, at least you get to stand next to the smoking room for longer than anybody wants to. It stinks. This is a casino. It's actually laid out quite thoughtfully. You can get your chips at one end, lose all your money in the middle, and then there's a bar to drown your sorrows at the other. I quite enjoy the dual message displayed on the video wall. While things are going well, you can pretend you think that it represents the buried treasure that is waiting to be won. But once reality kicks in, you can see that it really means this is where you can come to sink your money and drown in debt. It was busier than I usually see cruise ship casinos, certainly ones with mainly British passengers anyway. There were loads of machines, a couple of roulette wheels and some card tables. Everything you need to hemorrhage cash. During one of the many times I was stuck there in a queue, I did have a bit of a horrible feeling that the casino staff should not be taking one particular guest's money off him. I met him on the first night in another queue, waiting to get into the steakhouse for dinner. It was 5:30 and he was already absolutely annihilated. I didn't think much more about it at the time, other than I'm glad Virgin Voyages don't do shared tables after all. But then I'd seen him staggering around the ship a number of times since, and seeing him at the roulette table throwing his money away. It was not only obvious that he was smashed, but it was probably quite a long time since he'd been sober. He had such a pale complexion, grey lips, red eyes. His arms looked like bones with skin hanging off them, and he was wobbling around like one of those inflatables you see waving their arms outside a second-hand car lot. Sort of a bit ashamed to say that whilst I was wondering what should I do about this, the queue into the theatre started moving. I didn't give it another thought. I generally don't give marks out of 10 for casinos because they're just not my thing, but this one in particular left me feeling uneasy. The brew house is around the Atrium on deck 7. It's a fairly nondescript bar, which I had no real feelings about one way or another. If you're in the Atrium and you want a beer, well, this is the spot. 5 out of 10. The Sip Lounge is on deck 7 between the Atrium and the theatre. This is probably the venue where the sitting in a corridor vibe grates the most, as this is where you go when you want to feel fancy. It's a number of carpeted alcoves with a hard floor weaving through the middle and a champagne bar halfway down. The illusion of this being a proper venue is shattered if you go to the bar yourself rather than waiting at your seat for service, as you're very aware that you're just stood in a corridor. This is further amplified if you happen to be in there when the Red Room is kicking out, as a stream of, 100-150 people or so just walk straight through the middle. Not the end of the world, but certainly not fancy. 6 out of 10. On the other side of the forward staircase, or lifts for the less mobile or more lazy, is the groupie. Again, not for me. I sail solo, I don't have any friends, and I can't sing. Although having said that, from what I've heard, being able to sing does not exclude me from booking a karaoke room. I nipped in half a dozen times as I was passing because I thought some awful singing would be fun to hear, but nobody ever seemed to be in there. On the opposite side of the Atrium is the Grounds Club. It's a coffee shop, it's fine. The pastries are included, and this place is another corridor that you can sit in. And this one smells of coffee rather than bad choices and regret. 6 out of 10. Head from the Grounds Club towards the rear of the ship where you'll find this place. Literally a corridor that you can sit in, and that can't even be bothered to pretend that it's a venue. You'll come out of the other side into the Social Club. Now this place doesn't give up on being a corridor easily, but it does also have a bit of proper venue to it too. This is essentially Scarlet Lady's sports bar, where you can catch football or rugby or F1 or whatever's on. There are board games to play, a couple of indoor shuffleboard tables, and a bit of empty space where singers occasionally set up camp. If you're a full-grown adult who's a bit of a loser, the kind of person who still eats cheapo hot dogs, chicken wings and sweets, you can get them all here and they're included in your fare. Here is the cheapo hot dog, chicken wings and sweets that I picked up here. A youth club for people who, like me, don't have any youth. 7 out of 10. Through the Social Club, take a left and you'll find yourself in the arcade. Literally what it sounds like, a small 1980s style arcade where all the games are free to play. I was initially quite excited by this, but 3 minutes into a game of Space Invaders, I realised why there aren't any arcades around anymore. Through the social club and right and you'll be in the loose cannon. Now the arcade fits in with the social club vibe and it's sort of part of the same place. The loose cannon doesn't fit at all. I really liked it. It's a peaceful little place, bright and airy and themed like a beachside shack. There's a jukebox that is free to choose a song on, but it seems to play just whatever it feels like. And whilst there is a bar, it was never staffed while I was on board. Probably why I liked it. 8 out of 10. The dockhouse is one of few venues on board that feel proper. Rather than some uncomfortable seats in a corridor, this one is uncomfortable seats in a venue. Hard to believe that someone designed this ship. It's an awkward layout that feels like someone converted an old building into a lounge. Not like a custom-built, made-to-measure cruise ship lounge bar. It's a more relaxing space, brighter and softer looking than many others, more in keeping with the loose cannon. If you want to spend an hour with a Kindle on board, this is probably where you'll do it. In the evenings you'll find a musician or a DJ in here, but it's all kept really low-key. Think of it as a nightclub for vegans. One of its 3 exits leads you past a cramped bar, past the smoothie bar and a fridge of takeaway salads to the dock. This is the bar area at the rear of the ship where handsome, charismatic 42-year-old retired pro athletes can be found staring into the wake at 2 a.m. Speaking of 2 a.m, if you need to poop, well, all Scarlet Lady poops feel like it's 2 a.m. For reasons unknown, all of the public bathrooms are decorated nightclub style with black walls, black floors, black basins, and a bit of feature wall copper. The only thing missing is that dude charging £1 a spray for aftershaving a lollipop and the lines of cocaine. Well, I suppose you can always bring your own lollipops. On the rocks is the bar squeezed around the bottom of the atrium. There will be live music here a lot of the time, and if you get one of around 10 seats, then you can watch the performers. If not, well, there are maybe 40 other seats that you can use whilst fully aware that you are sitting in an afterthought that does not really work. 4 out of 10. Virgin have separated away a few things that you'll usually find in the spa. At the bottom of the atrium staircase you'll find Dry Dock, that's a ladies' hair salon and beauty parlour, and Stubble and Groom, a gents' barber shop. They are what you'd expect, though I did think that given Virgin Voyages' ethos, it was a surprise that they've gone for ladies and gents instead of one larger, gender-neutral beauty parlour. To fit in with the Virgin Voyages vibe, they could have called it We Are All Hairy. Next door you'll find Squid Ink, the gender-neutral tattoo parlour. Small, impulse-buy tattoos chosen from a flip book are definitely the type of good life choices that should be encouraged in a high alcohol consumption setting. There's a decent selection of shops. Apparently Queen Mary is lagging behind Virgin Voyages because that's only got one second-hand shop. On Scarlet Lady, there's a second-hand bag store, sure, but also used watches. And if you buy a second-hand Rolex at sea, yeah, you might have concerns about after-sales if anything goes wrong. But on the bright side, at least it's scratched. There's a big shop for decent watches, there's some cheaper watches, makeup and perfume for people that are ugly or smelly, Primark at sea, Vistaprint at sea, and a corner shop where you can get sweets, sun cream, duty free, and if you're lucky enough to have forgotten a travel adapter, then you can drop in and buy one here for $60. 60 fluffin' dollars. Now and then the record shop is open. Apologetically hidden away is this little corridor tat shop. Weirdly, they've tried to sex up Inch of Gold by presenting it more nicely, but also accepted that it is junk by putting it in the tat shop with one staff member who never talks to anyone. Probably too embarrassed. Head up high to deck 15 and you'll find the Galley. Full Galley review will be included in the Scarlet Lady dining review, but what I will say is that pre-boarding I was ready to dismissively call this the buffet and throw the Galley branding under the bus with all the other irritating Virgin Voyages language. But it really is better than a buffet. I mean, it's still buffet adjacent. Depending on what ships you've been on, it's very similar to Artisan Food Hall on Queen Anne, or like a better version of the Keys from Iona or Arvia. If you haven't been on any of those ships, then it's like a food court at the Trafford Centre, or, well, any BB shopping centre. After you've gotten fat, you can head across the corridor and get thin. The main gym area is split into two sections. The side that's lit like a nightclub is the cardio section. All the machines are facing windows, either out towards the ocean or in towards Dazza and Steve-O drinking beer on a sun lounger by a giant hot tub. On the side that's lit like an alien abduction, you'll find a modest selection of free weights and a decent selection of resistance machines. You've got the same watery or blubbery view options. In both cases, the equipment is Technogym, like seemingly every other ship on the water. Decent stuff, it's well looked after, and you can get in here 24 hours a day. Unlike most ship gyms, this one does get used quite a bit, but not to the point that you'll be frustrated by the queues. Gym, 8 out of 10. Head outside to where Dazza and Steve-O were chilling out, and there's a big bowl of warm water with a cross-shaped seat in it for the rare occasion that the water isn't sloshing wildly from one side to the other. This ship does not deal well with even the slightest movement, and it's definitely not one for people who struggle with seasickness. Out here you've also got the swimming pool. Now, it's always a bit of a stretch to include cruise ship swimming pools with the exercise equipment, but it's even more sarcastic than usual on Scarlet Lady. At first glance you'll think, oh, that pool's small, but a closer inspection will reveal your mistake. It's not small, it is tiny. It's split into 3 equal-ish sized sections. There are sections for paddling at each end, and a section for standing in awkwardly in the middle. Expecting someone to swim in this thing is like handing Tom Daley a cup of tea and expecting him to dive into it. Pools, 3 out of 10. Walking around deck 15, you might stumble on this odd little room. The scene is a sort of meeting room, which wasn't used for anything during my time on board. I doubt if Alan Sugar even cruises Virgin Voyages, but if he does, then he can hold his meetings in here. It seems like it'd be better used as, well, anything else. But Virgin have got 4 cruise ships, and I haven't even got one, so what do I know? Up one on deck 16 is a space called Training Camp. There are a couple of circuit training classes each day, and you can do your own thing anytime after that. There's decent kit, it's nice and quiet. It's a good addition to the regular cruise ship fitness offerings, 7 out of 10. Outside on deck 16 there's a boxing ring and a couple of punchbags. Now, having really been looking forward to this, it was a crushing disappointment. Not only were there far fewer people than anticipated on board that I wanted to punch, the punchbags weighed about the same as a cheese sandwich, and one punch makes them swing harder than the man from Del Monte at a pineapple convention. I'm not going to glorify the silly children's play area for grown-ups here, other than saying, there it is, it's pointless, and nobody uses it. The multi-sports court is also up here. Now, I didn't film it, how could I? But when I first walked in here, I picked up a basketball, did an impression of Woody Harrelson saying, first time, every time, and launched the ball straight through the hoop like a champ. I swear. I then spent about 15 minutes trying to recreate it for the camera before I gave up. It's a weird shape, it feels way too small, and it's definitely too narrow, but I'm not getting in the NBA anytime soon anyway. I also discovered when having a knockabout with a dude from Bristol that I won't be getting the call up for GB when pickleball gets into the Olympics. I've never played pickleball before, but it's pretty good. Basically, tennis at the speed of badminton. Easy to get going and difficult to get good. Would recommend to a friend, if I had one. In addition to a proper workout each day, I also like to do a 5k walking laps of the prom deck. Scarlet Lady does have a full wraparound prom deck, but it's not an enjoyable place to do your laps. Quite a lot of it is narrow. There are loads of sections where you have to weave in and out of windbreaks and room dividers. The back end is inconvenient while you making your way through a bar, and the front end is a scary battleship-grade tunnel. And that horrible wood-effect vinyl squeaky surface. Plastique? Is it plastique? I hear plastique a lot. Fortunately, wrapping up the Scarlet Lady fitness offering is a running track on deck 17. Just in case the twee language was approaching bearable levels, Virgin Voyages have called this the runway. And on the off chance that the name hasn't annoyed me enough, they also tell you that it's 255 meters long and that 6 laps is 1 mile. Whatever. Do 20 laps and you've just done over 5k and you'll have closed your rings. It's worth schlepping up here at least once if you are a cruiser loser who likes to take a picture of the name tag. Like me. One half of the running track is around an area called The Perch, an outdoor yoga area. Because, well, nothing is more relaxing than feet banging on a metal platform and a once super fit 42-year-old hero grunting his way around you 20 times. There is a spa. I didn't go. Sweet Natured have done a full spa review, so head there or take a look at Travels with David and Mark, which is basically a Virgin Voyages PR super channel. I realise that not everyone is like me. My favourite time on any ship is standing on the aft, being hypnotised by the wake when there's no land in sight. Some people miss life on land. What I hadn't realised is that some people miss sitting in a bus stop. Fortunately for those people, Scarlet Lady has got your back. Not only are there a load of these red metal bus stops where you can scratch that itch for free, there are also these white wooden bus stops which you can pay extra for. I suppose these must be more like coach stations. Smokers commonly complain about how few and where smoking areas are on ships. Sort of, you can tell what cruise lines think of us by where they put us. Well, you can tell what Virgin Voyages thinks of their suite guests by where they put them. This is Richard's Rooftop, an outdoor bar exclusively for suite guests. I'm not calling them rock stars until they at least go platinum. Right next to the smoking area. On the bright side, at least the horrifically uncomfortable seating options in there are a different colour. At the back of deck 16 is the cargo net that people bang on about. It was a lot smaller than I'd imagined, and I wasn't sure if these ropes were there to say be careful or keep off, so I didn't lay on it. It didn't look very comfortable, so it fit in perfectly with the rest of the ship. There's no real dress code on Scarlet Lady, and no formal night. What they do have is Scarlet Night, and honestly, I was a bit apprehensive about it. Supposedly, this ship-wide phenomena is where the entire thing is utterly transformed into a huge Moulin Rouge-style party with flamboyant excess and the wildest party ever seen on land or water. Honestly, I was afraid. I was considering getting room service and watching Downton on the cabin TV. The reality of Scarlet Night, well, maybe 90% of people wear something red. Some go small with a red t-shirt. Some go glitzy, and I saw a load of ladies dressed beautifully in red dresses and gowns, and a couple of cool dudes in red suits. And there were a few people who really suit the try-hard vibe and were basically wearing fancy dress. Beyond that, Scarlet Night was a bit half-hearted and pathetic. A few red light bulbs were switched on. There were a few inflatables knocking around, and the nightclub for the evening was the theatre instead of the manor. I mean, nobody else seemed disappointed, and I, for one, was relieved. In terms of entertainment, there was Scarlet Night, which was naff. Dual Reality, which was rocking. A load of live music, which was always really good. And then the Comedy Festival, which I'll deep dive in a separate video. A lot of the regular Virgin Voyages entertainment seems to centre around drag acts, which I've never really watched since Holland America told me that she found it offensive to women. I expect if you like drag acts, then you'll like it, and if you don't, well, you won't. Beyond that, regardless how edgy Virgin Voyages wants to be perceived, 3 trivias a day, bingo, and a jigsaw puzzle club just isn't that crazy. This is possibly the first time in a long time that I've been on a ship without some kind of cinema. be that a dedicated space or a screen and a projector in a bar or whatever, which I did miss a bit. Especially as you can grab a bag of popcorn in the social club, which would be the perfect place for it. Wandering around Scarlet Lady, I kept thinking how Emperor's New Clothes, the whole Virgin Voyages thing really is. This is a cruise ship like never before. The cruise line for people that don't do cruises. Nah. It's a cruise ship very similar to many that I've seen before, just not as comfortable. The cruise line for people that don't do sitting down. When you take away the awful twee language and affectation for the sake of it, what you're left with is very similar to any other ship on the water, but wearing a personality hat. There's no crow's nest type venue, which are always popular on other ships, and that seems a shame. But there's also no desperate photog trying to flog pictures on the Atrium stairs in a lovely cardboard frame, and that seems like a glimpse at the future of all ships. Virgin is marketed as being a premium brand, but like a lot of brands, the word premium is being kept whilst the reality moves downwards. When you're booking a trip, you'll probably be pleasantly surprised at the cost compared to other lines, particularly when factoring in the included, albeit squiffy Wi-Fi, and the soft drinks. Coffee after meals is pay extra, which did bother me when I first realised, but the included food genuinely is a big step up from other ships, including Celebrity and Holland America, which I think are possibly the only actual premium lines left. So squeezing an extra few quid there is forgivable. The cost of a lot of other things, less so. $60 for a travel adapter is shocking. But without a phone, iPod or a laptop for 6 days, I would genuinely worry that I might have died, so I had to get it. A private bus stop for $350 is also horrific, especially when the buses did finally arrive, they stopped nowhere near. Alcoholic drinks are expensive, but I don't drink, so who cares? And the spa services are priced so high, I genuinely wondered, maybe they don't actually have any spa staff on board and they've just decided that pricing them for lottery winners is better than admitting that the spa is closed. Okay, the money. I booked a solo inside cabin and I booked it early and I paid at booking, for which you get a 10% discount. So my fare was £1,074.29. Parking with CPS was super convenient, literally closer to check-in than the coffee shop in the terminal, and that was £105. Wi-Fi and soft drinks were included, and because I'm a peasant, I drank plenty of the free Galley coffee, so my only onboard spend, excluding the shocking price of a travel adapter, was coffee after meals and now and then during the day, which came to $66 or $48.86. That gives us a grand total of $1228.15 or £204.69 per night, making it by far the cheapest cruise so far this year and by far the best food. In the end, Virgin Voyages was better than I'd feared and worse than I'd hoped. And whilst I won't cancel the trip that I've already got booked with them, I didn't take them up on the very generous buy credit get free on board spend offer for a future trip. I'm not booking again. I'm just not booking again. I'll be heading on Valiant Lady for next year's Comedy Festival cruise. I've got 9 other ships booked between now and then, so by the time that comes around, maybe I'll have had a rethink about the future cruise credit offer. Until then, Scarlet Lady, done.